to Jose. Swung on, hit high, hit deep to right, away back into the second deck. Jose Ramirez. Oh my goodness.
Good teams win, but great teams cover.
Travis Kelce touchdown. We're so due.
Getting that, Vic. Everybody like.
This NBA trade deadline has been absolutely insane. From starting the season off and taking till, December for our first trade of the year. And now the last week has just been absolutely insane and names have been flying off the board. So welcome to the Hold My Bev NBA trade deadline video. Let's get started. We're going to start off with the first trade that we had this NBA season, where we saw the Atlanta Hawks finally moving Trae Young to the Washington Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. This trade at the time, I thought it was really interesting that with the Washington Wizards going after someone like Trae Young, but at the same time, they've been in a rebuild for the last 8 years. It was about time that they made a big move like this. So I give them probably I'd say B+, A- in this trade. They gained someone who's, probably the best player they've had on their team since John Wall was on the Washington Wizards, and that was ages ago, it feels like at this point. While they move off of CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, essentially it was Jordan Poole for Corey Kispert for Trae Young. No draft picks were involved at all, which is really shocking. In my opinion, I would have thought Atlanta would have at least wanted some draft capital, but Atlanta, I think you could have gotten maybe a little bit more for him. So I give this probably a C+ at best. Absolute best, C+. We still have not seen Trae Young suit up for the Washington Wizards, even though he's been on the team for about a month now. Washington does seem like they're going to continue to tank for the rest of this year, and this game plan is going to be for next season, not this season, as they want a top 5 pick still in this year's draft with the class being so loaded. We had my Cleveland Cavaliers making a move. It was rumored all season pretty much that DeAndre Hunter was going to be on the move, and his role with the team just kind of wasn't meshing where it needed to be, whether it was, taking him from the starting lineup to having him be sixth man. He had some decent games, but it just wasn't meshing well enough with the team, and the team needed a good shaking up. So they traded him to the Sacramento Kings for Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. Now, I think that this trade was very underrated, in my opinion. I think Dennis Schroeder, we saw him play his first game as a Cav last night, actually. Looked pretty solid. I think he's going to fit into this team very well. And same with Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis, I don't know what kind of minutes he's really going to be getting, but I think he's going to be great for the Cavs off the bench, playing winning basketball. He's a great defender as well. Young player, expiring contract. So, if it doesn't work out, okay, he leaves in free agency. It is what it is. We moved off of DeAndre Hunter. Also frees up money for us as well. So, as a Cavs fan, I think this is an A- for the Cavs. I know a lot of people probably disagree with that. I think at minimum it's a B, but in my opinion as a Cavs fan, A-. Love the trade. Love the money that it frees up for us as well. Kings really doesn't make a lot of sense in this trade. Just because they're kind of in a really weird spot this year. So, not really sure if I think it's very similar to kind of like Washington almost, just not that Trae Young caliber of player, where Hunter is going to be more or less for next season's plan. Kind of see how he fits in this year's plan for them as well, because he is still young, and I still think he is a good player. He just didn't fit in Cleveland the way we all hoped he did. The Bulls also were involved in this trade as well, essentially just facilitating eating up cap for these teams to make the trade work. So they gained Darius Garland and 2 future first-round picks. Cavs, well, no, I already gave the Cavs grade A-. I would say the Kings, C plus, with higher potential to be a better, better grade. But I think C's as fair of a grade as you're going to get right now. Just considering the team's situation and circumstance, I don't see where he fits on this roster at the moment. If this is for next year, they showed why they traded for him next year, or even yet this year. My grade could go up on this trade, but initial grade is going to be a C. Bulls, they win. They give up nothing. They release a player in this, Javon Carter. So, A. I mean, they just gained 2 second-round picks for virtually doing nothing other than taking on a player's contract. Next, we had a blockbuster deal between the Memphis Grizzlies and Utah Jazz that absolutely no one saw coming, where the Memphis Grizzlies are sending Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jacques Landale, and Vince Williams Jr. to the Utah Jazz in exchange for Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 future first-round picks. This trade is awesome. Memphis, I mean, they sell early on Jaren Jackson Jr., which I feel a lot of teams miss out on nowadays in the NBA. Memphis is a very smart organization, and they realize that their window is closed. It's closed. They're not, I mean, they might not even make the playoffs this year, but the 2 years that they were contenders, if you want to call them that, I mean, they definitely were to be taken serious, and you didn't want to see them in the playoffs. But this definitely was the prime time to get the most value out of Jaren Jackson Jr. trade value. So Utah swings big. I don't know how much I absolutely love him in Utah, but I love that Utah is now flipping the switch post Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert era of, okay, let's go after this thing. Let's start competing. So they're going to tank the rest of this year, very similar to Washington, as I mentioned before. So they're going to, go after a top 5 pick. Their pick is top 8 protected, I believe. So they should be, or no, it's not. This year's pick is best between them and Cleveland, actually. I don't know what team I'm thinking of top 8 protected. But anyways, I'll come back to that. But I love this for Utah at the same time. I'd say I'd probably give it a B. Memphis, this is going to be an A minus. Capitalize on the value. You're going into a full rebuild at this point, so John Morant's going to be next. I won't be surprised if he's even involved in this video as well later on. Like I said, I'm recording this at about 11:45 at this very moment, so trade deadline's not completely over yet as I'm starting this recording. But yeah, love this for both sides. Utah, B, and then Memphis, A minus, easily on this trade. Shortly after that trade, we got a trade between the Chicago Bulls, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Detroit Pistons, where Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley are going to be sent to the Chicago Bulls. Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric are sent to the Pistons, which the Kings just traded Dario Saric to the Bulls. Now he's on the Pistons in this trade. Detroit also receives a 2026 first-round pick swap from Minnesota, so they'll get the best pick between them and Minnesota, which really isn't going to be too much of a difference. I mean, it might move up like 4 picks, 5 picks by the end of the year. But I think this was a great trade for Chicago. They gained a good young guard in Jaden Ivey, who just simply wasn't fitting in Detroit with Cade Cunningham. I still think that he could be a pretty solid player in the NBA. I mean, when Cade Cunningham is not on the floor, he's averaging close to 18 points a game. So I really have hope for Jaden Ivey in the future. And I think Chicago's going to give him a big opportunity to showcase that as well. Mike Conley, he gets moved in a later trade during this video, so he's not really a factor in this trade necessarily. But Kevin Huerter, Detroit needed some shooting really, really bad. So he's a huge asset to them. And Dario Saric is going to be a nice piece off the Pistons bench as well. One thing I did want to mention about the Timberwolves trading Mike Conley and why this trade was important for the Minnesota Timberwolves is that this freed up about $10 million for the Minnesota Timberwolves, which put them in position to make a possible trade for Giannis. So Minnesota has been on big Giannis watch these last couple days. So I'm curious if by the end of this video, if Giannis gets traded. Who knows? I guess we'll know by the time this video comes out, but we'll see by the end of this video if Giannis is traded. And then next trade, moments after Chicago back active in the trade market, they're sending Nikola Vucevic and a second-round pick to the Boston Celtics for Anthony Simons and a second-round pick. So essentially swapping second-round picks for Vucevic, sending him to Boston, and Anthony Simons going over to Chicago. I would love to see Simons get traded in this deal just because Chicago has a lot of guards right now at the moment, and I don't know where he really fits in with all of that. If he's the odd man out, who's going to be the odd man out ultimately? I just don't know if I see him in Chicago or if someone else makes a deal for him. Vucevic, I mean, we've been talking about him moving from Chicago for, it feels like the last 4 years now. So glad to see he's at a new home in Boston. He's going to fit that team. Big upgrade at the center position. And Simons, who was always hit or miss whether he was going to get minutes in Boston or not, he really felt like the odd man out in this deal. Or not this deal, but in Boston. So glad to see him get a new home, and hopefully he gets another new home, I would hope, by the end of this video. All right, and next we have my Cleveland Cavaliers yet again making another trade. They are sending Darius Garland and a second-round pick to the Los Angeles Clippers for James Harden. Now, if you would have ever asked me, 3 years ago, hey, James Harden, is he ever going to play on the Cavs? I'd look at you like you're crazy. Lo and behold, he is a Cleveland Cavalier. He wanted to be a Cleveland Cavalier. He had requested a trade the night before it happened, and the Cavs were fast acting on the phone with the Clippers. Kobe Altman really wanted James Harden in Cleveland, and as much as I'm going to miss Garland in Cleveland, I did enjoy watching him play a lot. I got something on my sweatshirt. Damn, it's going to drive me crazy. As much as I did love watching Garland in Cleveland, he's just constantly hurt. The injuries definitely were a problem, and, you got to show Donovan Mitchell some kind of security moving into the future as he's eligible for a contract extension this summer. He's never made it out of the second round, so this is an all-in move to make him happy. Let's get him to the conference finals, if not the NBA finals. I really think this team's an NBA contender right now, and I still think there could be a couple more moves that are made, whether it's still this trade deadline or the buyout market. So that's something that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out on throughout the rest of this season. But Cavs, a lot of people were grading them pretty low on this. I love this trade. I think Harden helps also Mobley and Jarrett Allen a ton. I think their efficiency is about to go skyrocket. So I gave this a B+. And the Clippers, I did give them an A- on this. They get someone that's 10 years younger, a two-time All-Star, in a season where, they're okay. But this is definitely going to be the direction that they're going to be building around Darius Garland moving forward, getting ready for that 2027 NBA offseason. Next, we had the Washington Wizards making yet again another big move that no one really expected. I definitely didn't expect this to be an Anthony Davis landing spot, but the Dallas Mavericks sent Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley III, two first-round picks, and 3 second-round picks. I actually really love this deal, especially with Anthony Davis having injury problems right now. For the Washington Wizards, they can let him set and rest the rest of this season if they want. Maybe play him the last few games of the year, and just really prepare for next season. They're in prime spot for a top 5 pick as they're the 14th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. Not ready to compete whatsoever this season, but ready to jump out of the gates next season and be a true contender in this NBA. Meanwhile, the Dallas Mavericks, they're in full rebuild. This is Cooper flag time, and they just got 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks to help build around him. And some solid young players, too. I mean, A.J. Johnson, he's okay. Malachi Branham, I mean, he's going to get some run time with the Dallas Mavericks. And then Chris Middleton's an expiring contract after this year, so that's going to free up a ton of money where Dallas was in a really bad situation after the Luka trade, and it's really a disaster. But, now it's at least at a point where it's past them. They can move on from it, and hopefully never anything like that happens again, such as trading Cooper Flag, which hopefully that never happens for them. So I gave this a B+ for the Washington Wizards. I really like it. Anthony Davis is older, but he is still one of the best big men in the NBA, and I think he can help them out a ton, especially with Trae Young, if they can both stay healthy. They get that top 5 pick this year. Hopefully the lottery rolls their way and they can land one of these top 3 players in the draft. Dallas, I mean, hey, honestly, I call it a win. You got out of the situation after 1 year. B+ as well for Dallas. It could even be an A-, A even. Next, we had the Philadelphia 76ers making another shocking trade, sending Jared McCain, who was a runner-up for Rookie of the Year, probably would have won the award had he not got hurt last year, dealing with a ton of different injuries, to the Oklahoma City Thunder for the 2026 Rockets first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. Oklahoma City's just made out of draft picks right now, and I mean, this was probably one of their worst ones that they had, other than their very own pick. So, I mean, this is a huge win. Upside, low risk, high reward move for the OKC Thunder. I definitely think that this was a panic move by Philadelphia after hearing about Paul George's 25-game suspension. So, I'm going to go ahead and give OKC A+ for this. I mean, like I said, low risk, high reward. I know McCain's been having a down year this year, but he still shows the promise. And I think playing alongside SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, I think this is going to help him out a ton, make his life 10 times easier, and he's gonna show his worth in this. Meanwhile, Philadelphia, I get you got VJ Edgecombe, and you got Tyrese Maxey, so McCain's fit was kind of weird in this, so I guess I'll give you C- at best in this. I just don't think it was worth it. Maybe if you got a slightly better first-round pick in return, I could see it out, but yeah, not a big fan of Philadelphia on this trade. All right, next we had the Chicago Bulls finally trading Kobe White as well, and this is the trade that sends Mike Conley with Kobe White to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Colin Sexton and Omonse Osman. I honestly don't know how to pronounce his first name correctly, so I apologize. Dieng and 3 second-round picks. Now, Dieng actually is coming from the OKC Thunder, who managed to wiggle their way into this trade to dump off some salary cap. I'm going to assume this has a lot to do with the Jared McCain trade, and this is kind of one big jumbled up trade right here. But I love this trade for both Charlotte and Chicago. I mean, Kobe White's definitely going to be an upgrade over Colin Sexton in Charlotte for the role that they want him to play. Mike Conley, I think he's going to be a great veteran point guard in that locker room. Granted, I don't think Charlotte really needs a backup point guard right now. So I easily could see Charlotte buying out or waiving Mike Conley out of respect for him. And now that he has been traded twice, he can now be released and signed back with the Minnesota Timberwolves if he chooses to. So I'd be on the lookout for that. I think that's very likely that could happen. So I think Mike Conley, there's a good chance he's going to be playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves yet again this year. But Chicago, you finally move off Kobe White. He was the odd man out in this. Take a flyer on Colin Sexton. The Young Bull is playing for the Young Bulls now, officially. So excited for him. And then Dieng, another new young player that's going to be added to this Chicago Bulls roster. I give the Bulls in this one I'd say C plus. I mean, Kobe White, you probably could have traded him at least a year or two ago and probably gotten maybe some first round picks. Meanwhile, you're just racking up second round picks like it's candy right now. So, I mean, I'm glad they moved off Kobe White for sure, but I still think you missed out on your value and opportunity right there. Meanwhile, Charlotte, this is going to be a B plus. I think Kobe White's going to fit in on this red hot Hornets team right now and be an immediate impact for them from day one. And whether they keep Mike Conley or not, I think that's also a great addition, one way or another, whether they keep him or not. So I really like this trade between these two teams. I'm briefly going to talk about this trade. Nothing really too major. Chris Paul is getting sent to the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors are sending Ochai Ejianobi and their 2032, I believe it is. Yes, 2032 second round pick to the Brooklyn Nets. I don't quite understand this one other than Chris Paul just needing to get out of the Clippers since they sent him home. Honestly, completely forgot at this point that he was on the Clippers still, since he's just not with the team at all. Raptors, I mean, they clear out some salary, and that's really about it. I mean, they get Chris Paul, but they're not expecting Chris Paul to report to the team. So I don't know if he's going to be involved in another trade yet today or what's going to happen here. We do got some breaking news, though. I might have to get to that after I get through all these trades. But I don't really have any grades for this trade. This trade's kind of pointless and just salary dump across the board for all these teams other than Brooklyn. I do think Ochai is a good player or a solid player for the Brooklyn Nets. He's going to have an opportunity to, grow his game there and really develop. I was excited when the Cavs drafted him back in the day, but I'd much rather have Donovan Mitchell than this guy. So we got another salary dump trade where we have Lonzo Ball and 2 second-round picks being sent to the Utah Jazz. Lonzo Ball, after the Schroeder trade and Harden trade, there was no room for Lonzo. I mean, his minutes were already getting restricted, as is, just because he didn't fit with the team. Jazz are expected to release Lonzo Ball, and he'll become a free agent at some point. So, curious to see if any team picks him up. I think someone will definitely pick him up because I still think he's a good player. He just simply did not fit with us in Cleveland here. Yet again, no real grades on this one, just a salary dump move. And then last night, we had the Golden State Warriors finally making a move with Jonathan Kuminga. They're sending Kuminga and Buddy Hield to Atlanta in exchange for Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis has only played 17 games this year for the Hawks. First year in Atlanta as well. But I think he's a very interesting fit in Golden State. However, I would love this trade a lot more if my apologies, Jimmy Butler, that is disrespecting Jimmy Butler, I'm so sorry. If Jimmy Butler was not out for the year, I would absolutely love this trade for Golden State, and I think that it would help them compete in the playoffs and possibly make a conference finals run. I don't know if they were quite that far yet, just considering, Porzingis' health. I mean, I get it. You had to move off of Kuminga. Buddy Hield wasn't really doing you too much. So why not take the flyer on Porzingis? I give both of these teams B- at best, if not C+ across the board. Not really a big fan of this trade other than for Golden State. Kuminga, I mean, he's nice and young, but I don't know where Kuminga really fits on this roster with Ricochet and Jalen Johnson both having great seasons. Ricochet not as much as Johnson, but I mean, you spent the first overall pick on him, and clearly they aren't looking to move him at this very moment. So, yeah, I mean, unless you plan on Kuminga just strictly being your sixth man, I don't see the fit on this trade at all. The Warriors also stayed busy after adding Porzingis. They went ahead and traded Trace Jackson Davis to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for a second-round pick. in this year's draft. Toronto was in need of the center position, just kind of building up a little bit more depth there. Trace Jackson Davis is a solid young center that just was losing minutes in Golden State after getting a ton his rookie year and building up his reputation. Steve Kerr was just playing him less and less, and I mean, this is a win, especially after getting Porzingis. This is a win for Golden State and the Raptors, so pretty fair trade for both sides. And this morning we start off with our very first trade between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Chicago Bulls, where the Bulls finally traded my boy Io to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 second-round picks. Chicago will also be sending Julian Phillips in this trade as well to Minnesota. I love this trade for both teams. Minnesota definitely needed an upgraded guard leaving this trade deadline. And Rob Dillingham, I mean, he just wasn't really meshing with what Minnesota was wanting to do. Even though they traded up in the draft to go get Rob Dillingham, he just wasn't meshing very well with this team. I think Dillingham could be a promising player in this league, and I think Chicago is going to give him that opportunity to showcase, his game and how good he can be in this league. So I'm actually really excited for Chicago Bulls basketball. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be interesting seeing how some of these players mesh and, whether these players are legit or not. So, very excited. Next, we had the Los Angeles Lakers trading Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for Luke Kennard. Lakers, love this trade for them. They move off of Gabe Vincent's contract finally, only having to give up a second-round pick to get rid of it, and they get a great shooter in Luke Kennard. LeBron and Luke Kennard, both Ohio high school legends. So excited to see them finally play together. I think that's going to be pretty cool, just as an Ohio kid myself. Absolutely love this. Lakers definitely needed another shooter on their team, so big fan of this trade. Not sure exactly what Atlanta wanted other than that second-round pick. I do know they got an $11 million trade exception, which is really the only other reason I can see them really wanting to do this trade. As they can use that trade exception later down the road. All right, and then the breaking news that I was just recently talking about here was that the Milwaukee Bucks indicated that they're going to be keeping Giannis Antetokounmpo through the trade deadline and will start making other trades. They immediately go out and trade Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for Nick Richards and Nigel Hayes-Davis. I don't really know much about Hayes Davis that much. I don't see where they really benefit from this. Not really at all. Nick Richards, I mean, he's a solid center, but I mean, Milwaukee's not making the playoffs this year, if we're being completely honest. And yeah, I'm kind of pissed that they're not trading Giannis right now, because I honestly think they're gonna end up having to settle for less in the offseason. So I think this is gonna be a huge failure for Milwaukee going forward, but we shall see. All right, next up we got Jose Alvarado heading over to the New York Knicks as part of a 3-team trade. So the Knicks are gonna send over Dalen Terry, who they believe they got from the Bulls, I believe. And they are trading him in 2 second-round picks to the Pelicans for Jose Alvarado. I like this for the Knicks. It definitely makes them a lot tougher on defense and backup point guard. I know they were playing their second-year player, Tyler Kolich. I think that's his last name. I think it sounds right. Kolich. Whatever. I always get him on 2K. So, I definitely like the upgrade for New York, though. I think that he's going to help them out a ton, especially going into the playoffs and the end of the season. Pelicans also get out with an expiring contract as they're building around Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. So, really like this for them. and I think this is going to benefit them a lot heading into the future and starting their new build. And of course, we're going to end things off with an absolute banger at the NBA trade deadline. We have the Indiana Pacers sending Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks and 1 second-round pick to the Los Angeles Clippers in exchange for Zubac and Kobe Brown. Shout out to the former Cleveland State alumni right there. Which, wow, I can't believe the Pacers actually made the move. 2, do they realize how good their draft pick is right now, positioned to be? Speaking of their draft pick, of course, the Clippers are going to be receiving the Indiana Pacers draft pick for this year. However, it is protected 1 through 4. So if it's a top 4 pick, Indiana is going to keep it. Also, if it's between 10 and 30, they're going to keep it. So if it falls between 5 and 9, it goes straight to the Clippers. And Indiana also receives, or not Indiana receives, they'll get a 2031 first-round pick from Indiana and 2029. So that is the scary part and the risk part that you're taking here, especially playing without Tyrese Halliburton this year. But I think it's worth it. I mean, it's worth the shot. I know some people are skeptical about it. I personally take that trade any day of the week, especially if you still have a chance to pick in the top 4. So I really like it a lot. So basically, if it falls top 4, or if it doesn't fall between 5 and 9, then it's Indiana's pick. They're going to get a good player. As long as I would say between top 4. But Clippers are in prime position for a very nice rebuild now. I definitely like this from the Clippers standpoint the most. Just hit the reset button. I really thought we were going to get a Kawhi Leonard trade. I was on the watch for that for the last 30 minutes of the trade deadline. So I'm not shocked if we get a Kawhi Leonard trade this summer. I think that's definitely going to be high up on the radar, or possibly even a buyout to where, Kawhi can choose his own team. I would bet that they would trade him, though. But yeah, great pickup for Indiana. They're going to be very exciting to watch next year. It's going to be, I don't know, the Pacers seem like very much a Zubac team, so I like that. And hopefully Kobe Brown gets some run, too. I want to see Cleveland State Viking get some more run. Well, Missouri, too. He went to Missouri, but started off at Cleveland State. Anyways, though, I'd give the Clippers A- on this one. Great job. I mean, you got exactly what you wanted for Zubac. And the Pacers, they're swinging big. They're swinging big for next season. That's what a lot of these trades have been, this trade deadline. So, very excited to see how these all work out. But if you guys did enjoy this episode, I would really appreciate if you guys could subscribe down below. We do podcasts once to twice a week on here, and then I do little episodes like this, whether it's NBA content, NFL, you name it, I do it. But until next time, we'll see you guys later. Peace.